So they said, well, we've got to add on to that church anyhow in order to have a fully functioning school. So we made a deal with them, and they put a basement in and pulled 2 double wides on top. And we began to meet there. Now, here's the complication. The school started in 1995, but the other church didn't move. So we, River of Life, we had to meet in between the desks of the school in the part of the double wide from September of 95 until Easter of 96. Now, the reason that Easter of 96 became important is because Roselawn, Conservative Mennonite Church, was going to move into Middlebury and take the old church of Middlebury Church of the Brethren, which is on Mill Street. Because that day, Middlebury Church of the Brethren moved into their new building on County Road 8, and that would have been Easter of 1996. So on that day, Easter 96, we finally got a sanctuary. Roselawn moved to their place, and Middlebury Church of the Brethren moved into their building, so all 3 churches had a new day on that day. And that was a big deal. I'm a sanctuary guy, and I believe sanctuaries are important. And we finally had it, even though it was the benches and the things in there, we finally had a place where we had a little stage. We could put the piano there. We had guitar. We could do that stuff. But it felt like church. And it was important. So by the time we did that, you realize we've been meeting since March of 95. And this is Easter of 96, which I looked it up. And April 7th of 1996 was Easter. In our first year, I'll go with this. I'm not going to bore you with some of these other things, except that on May 19th of 96, we started our Sunday school program, and it was called Together We Build. And then December 22nd of that year was our first annual Christmas program. I mean, there is so much in this, and we had to walk through so many things. I mean, we were constantly, we had such a heart to see God do something that we had some people, it was like their gift just came out of them. Some would go speak to builders, some would go speak to speakers, some would do other things, and we had this unity because we had the same goal. It was in 1995, because early on we had solidified just a temporary board. But at the end of 1995, we decided that we needed to have elected elders and elected deacons. We didn't have a pastor. And what came out of that was, I believe, if I recall right, I don't have this written down in these notes, that when we went to vote for those positions of elders and deacons, there were 66 adults at that time that were voting. I was one of the nominees for an elder. And I had had a couple people talk to me and say, would you consider being pastor here? And I said, I'm not even talking about it. But when that vote came in 1995, 27 people crossed out elder in front of my name and wrote pastor. And that's when I told them about the calling that God had put on my life. And from that time on, coming to 1996, I was brought on as pastor. And so 1996 to 2025, if you're going to count 1996 the whole year, this is my 30th year. Let me explain a little bit for those of you who don't know me very well and some of you who have been here but still don't know the heart that I have. You'll get it. I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way in any fashion. But I've always been a community guy. And I believe the church is supposed to have influence in its community and its surroundings. I believe that there's supposed to be this salt that makes people thirsty and light that people are attracted to. And I believe that with all my heart. I don't think the church is meant to silo inside a building and act like we're awesome. I don't believe that for a minute. Our best work is out there. And so when we do this, so here's what we did in our first year. This is an idea that I had, If you don't know what that is the town of Middlebury. I divided it into 10 sections. And for several months, I would pass out papers to people who would come. I think we did this on Wednesday evenings. And we started in section 1, and some of those are subdivisions, and that looks a lot different now. That's 30 years ago, 29 years ago. And we went house to house and door to door and knocked on doors, only to ask 3 questions. Do you go to church? If so, how often a month do you go to church? And if you don't mind, tell us where you go to church. I was astounded at the results we got. 2/3 of the people attended church at some point. How many churches do you suppose were represented in those 10 sections? 66. You don't think there's any division in church? I talked to one lady personally. Where did she go to church? The Greek Orthodox Church in South Bend. Well, by that time, I'm studying the Word. I said, you know Greek? She goes, no, I just like the service. The whole service is going to be in a language she doesn't understand. And I'm going, wow, I can't make sense out of that. How many churches does she drive by that would be in English, and yet, for her, something about Greek Orthodox? But that's what we did. And out of that came this heart of mission, because I'm going, another thing that I did right away was I became part of the Middlebury Ministerial. And I will tell you, we have had glorious years. Back when I first started, I felt awkward in it. And because some of these were men who had been in the ministry most of their lives. But I soon found out that we hide behind our denominational names, and we don't openly discuss things that ought to be discussed. And I'm that kind of person, so I love to sit with pastors and just talk through the Word and love to do that kind of thing. I mean, that's my delight. I love church. I love pastors. I've met with hundreds of pastors over the years. Hundreds, yeah, probably. And so with all of this said, we started in the ministerial, and we would do all kinds of things. And let me get back to my notes so I can make sure I don't go off track here, okay? I'm going to switch gears. Got ahead. So we were meeting down at Roselawn, but the problem was we soon didn't have seats. Bought some chairs, ran out of room. Meanwhile, this church at this building had dissolved. And the people who had been here came in and took everything. I joke about it that they even took the closet rods. I mean, they took sound systems, they took all the chairs. There were 800 chairs in this altogether. They took everything. And the crazy part was, the pastor here had a son in New York who had a church, and they told those people that, man, this church in Indiana just wanted to bless them with all their stuff. And so they loaded up and brought 3 semis here in the night. But just to tell you how crazy church can be, I started getting calls from the newspaper and the television stations up in New York because they had heard about what happened, started investigating, and realized what these people had done. And so I was getting interviewed for all these things, and I'm going, look, we're just getting started here. But here's what happened. When this building was for sale, they were trying to sell it as a warehouse for $1.5 million. Well, evidently nobody was buying. And then all of a sudden, we saw a different for sale sign in front, and they dropped the price to $595,000. By that time, we had already bought land south of Middlebury, and we're going to build. And the cheapest build we could find was $1.1 million. And that was going to be for a basic church structure because you have to do certain things, like put in a fire system. You realize you have to have a separate 6-inch well just for fire? $100,000. So when this came up in 1999, we set a business meeting and said, church, do you want to buy this building? Well, some of you who know my story, the day before that meeting, I went on a field trip with my son to Chicago. 5th grade class goes to Chicago from Middlebury Elementary School. I got sick in Chicago, started having such severe pain that I couldn't hardly walk. My wife said, call an ambulance. I said, I'm not going to Chicago hospitals. So we made it back home, and I went into the hospital and come to find out my gallbladder needed to come out. But because the hospital was busy, they couldn't do it on Tuesday, so they had to wait till Wednesday. So the elders came to the hospital and said, Gordy, are we still supposed to have this meeting? I said, absolutely. So they came back here and voted, and that's when we decided to buy this building. And we ended up getting the price down to $545,000, which is crazy because the structure of this building is really, really good. And this was this building in the East Annex. So we started, and the people had a heart to, I think with the story of Nehemiah, they had a heart to work. And I mean, they refurbished that east side over there, and we started meeting over there, and we had glorious days. And then we soon needed to do something different. But during that time, in September 19th of 1999, we had dedication for the building. And I had invited my original pastor to come back and do the dedication, Bill Burkett. We had a number of guests, and what we did was we met over there, and we had this. This place was still a mess because they had turned the heat off, so the glue had come out of the carpet, and it was kind of messy over here. And so we had a dedication service that day. And then we had the meal afterwards. And all of a sudden, we heard screaming. And come to find out, on our playground that day, there was a couple huge sewer pipes that had been there for all the years the school had been there. They were just meant to be stood on and played with, and they didn't move. But somebody got it rolling. And it ran over a little 4-year-old boy, and he died. And that was our dedication Sunday. In the newspaper. We're a brand new church, so to speak. Just buying a building. And you go, what in the world are we supposed... I remember being out in the playground saying, God, why? Now? On my way to the South Bend Hospital. Are you kidding me? How about throwing the towel? Next day in the paper, front page. Boy dies on church playground. Those are hard things. But we also understand that we have adversary. And I will tell you something that I have spoken many times. The enemy can't read your mind, and he doesn't know your tomorrow. But he can't afford you to find momentum. He cannot allow you, if you have a passion and desire to do things for God, you're going to find yourself in places where the enemy just wants to stifle you and stymie you, and if he could, take you out, but he can't. I learned that through my gallbladder experience. So 1999 was a pivotal year. But we did it, and we came. And as I've told you before, there's the dedication bulletin. You can tell that's not 2023 or 4 or 5. Life was simple back then. You opened up your flip phone, pulled up the antenna, and said, hello. Some of you have never seen a flip phone. That's because you were born after 1996 and didn't know what a phone was until 2006. But we won't go down that road, will we? So here's what we started doing. I started engaging our church in community things. And I love it. I love the place where we live, folks. I'll just tell you. Middlebury, Shipshewana, this area, I feel like this is a breadbasket of God's love. Our community, we can still have friendly things all over the place. We still can walk freely. We don't have to worry about a lot of crime. I'm sure there's issues here. Talk to the police, they'll tell you. But as far as a place to live, I will tell you, I have walked State Road 13, watching all the cars come down the road, which if you've ever seen the movie The Field of Dreams, all them cars coming down the road, that's State Road 13 every morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I would walk that road and say, thank you, God. Thank you for your provision. You're the one who ministers this stuff. We're not that good. So I have a picture here. You can go to the next slide. This is what we started doing. The Middlebury Festival. I've loved the Middlebury Festival. I love going downtown Middlebury. Go to the Village Inn. Go to the places. And so what we did was, in the first years that we were together, we had a booth at the Middlebury Festival. And we sold hillbilly hot dogs and nacho supremes. Everybody know what a hillbilly hot dog is? You put sloppy Joe on a hot dog, and then you put coleslaw on top. And then you make a mess all over yourself. And you're downtown, so nobody cares because you can see everybody else that had one. And then I had a better idea. Let's be in the parade. So for several years, Denise and I had come from the flea market, and that's where our previous job. And so I knew the equipment that the flea market had. And they had a whole bunch of water troughs. I don't know, probably 100-gallon ones, And we had them on little trailers that they had made, custom made, so that we could drag those out into the flea market and sell water. And we would sell water bottles. One year I ordered a whole semi-load of water just to sell in the flea market that year. And we sold it all. Well, I knew they had those troughs and they weren't using them at the time. And so I said, can I fix up some of those troughs? So we started doing garden tractors like that one back there. If you can see right behind the one on the right, there's a trough behind him, and there's probably two more. It was like a little train. And each one would pull about 3 wagons. We started out with like 1,500 bottles. By the time we got through going the next few years, we did it for probably at least 5 or 6, maybe 7 years. Our big year was we gave out 2,500 bottles of water just from that parade. And it's only, it's not even hardly a mile long. And we called ourselves the Thirst Brigade. Why? Because we're the river of life. And every year we would make up new shirts and put our theme on there, and we would make banners and have them going down the street. And you can see the Thirst Brigade and River of Life. And, might have been another banner that says, he who comes to me will never thirst, type thing. But we started doing the light of the world. We started doing, in fact, my daughters were here yesterday, and we made a parade for Christy Jackson going by her door with these big banners, acting like she was the bystander, and we were walking by with these banners. And it said, do you feel like there's no good news anymore? And the next little banner was, I've got good news. Jesus loves you. And so that's what we would do. So year after year, this is kind of what it is. But if you see these kids and these people, they don't look like that anymore. I'll guarantee you that. Then in 2006, we did something else. Go to the next slide if you would. In 2006, we did a major production. And it was awesome, if I must say so myself. I mean, we had so many people in this play. But I looked it up. We did this play 5 times. One time we did it 3 times in one day. Live donkey. You know who brought that through? The man who passed this last week and just had a funeral here on Friday, Lowell Miller. He walked that donkey all the way through and went through the doors there. That used to be outside doors. It's not anymore. We had people, it was dynamic. And the great thing was, we had a production company come and they filmed it, put it on DVDs, and we sold them. I have one. And I'm going to tell you, it was just awesome. But this is what it was. And I will tell you this, we packed out this place over and over and over again and talked about doing it longer simply because the people were saying, that is so good. I want to go bring some other people. I want to do this. These people who produced it and did what they did, it was awesome, but it was such a huge team. And that's what I see. We can do a lot of things if we just get it. And eternity will tell it all. Go to the next slide if you would, Jackie. This is another thing. I don't know how many of you know this, but my wife, she's an intercessor. And through another friend of hers, we started doing 24 threes, 24 hours a day for 3 days. We would have prayer vigils at the church here, and people signed up for an hour slot. And that's when they got better and better and better at it, but they would open up this place at the end where you would go into, and they put up just these translucent cloth openings, and they called it the secret place. So after you had gone through and you had gone past prayer boards and seen all the things you would pray for, then you would go into the secret place and you would have communion all by yourself. Places where you'd punch the button and it would play the song and you would do it. We've done this many times. And I told our community people about it and our ministerial, and so these are the newspapers locally. January 18th, 2009, we rallied all the churches in the area to a 24/7. And I mean, it was awesome. These people couldn't believe that by the time they get in there, and they sign up, and we had it online at that time, and they could sign up online and go through. And right across from Harding's down in Middlebury, there's a Quonset building. And they allowed us to set this whole thing up in there. And I will tell you this, it got the write-up, it got the publicity, but the beauty was, man, did it solidify and unify the churches of Middlebury. I will tell you, the Middlebury Ministerium, we have had such tremendous times together. The Lutheran Church, the Church of the Brethren, Crystal Valley had started. There was just all the churches around there. We would get together, even some that were a little further away, like Clinton Frame, they're still a part of it. But we would get together and we would pulpit exchange at Easter time. I'd go to one church, somebody'd come here and preach, another ones, we just exchanged pulpits. We wanted to show community that we might not all believe exactly the same, but we all believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and that He is our salvation. We even had, for a couple years, the singing pastors. And there was about 8 of us, and we had a group, and we would sing at these different get-togethers that we would have. And it was awesome. There was such a beautiful work there. And that's what I felt God wanted us to do, and that's why I was honored to be a part. I led the ministerial for about 7 or 8 years. Still the treasurer. I've been the treasurer. I don't even think they know there's a treasury, but times are better. We used to have a whole voucher system with the police and local businesses that when people needed something, we could write out a voucher and then the ministerial would go pay for it. There were such beautiful, beautiful times. I had a group in the church called the Church Council. It was understood in the church that we didn't have any authority, but we were the organizational people who would do all kinds of things. So basically, almost every month, the church council would plan activities of some kind or another. We had adult game nights. We'd go to Chicago White Sox. We'd do bowling in February. You name it. We were doing it. Boat rides, biking, golfing. Guess who's coming to grilling? This is who we've been. And I love it. Because you know what attracts people? Belonging. And if they can come to a place where they can find a way to belong, they'll buy in. That's the beauty of what church is meant to be. Jesus said, "He who comes to me, I will in no wise cast out." I want you to belong to me. And that's what church really is meant to be. It's meant to be attractive, and once people come in, we attract more because we've got more. So here's what we, go to the next slides and we'll show you. Anybody remember this? 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 5 years. We did fair parking at the Elkhart County Fair. How many of you have never been to the Elkhart County Fair? Okay, well, all the rest of you know then. It's one of the largest fairs in the nation. It is. You know who we rival with? Los Angeles County Fair. It's bigger than most state fairs. And believe me, parking was an issue. So we took it on. Yay. It was tough, but there was reward. But this is in the first couple years, and this is in the third and fourth, probably maybe fourth and fifth. But let me tell you just a little bit of the undertaking it takes. There's only a couple pictures of it, but if you've been to the fairgrounds, all the way from entrance 1 all the way down to the new entrance, exit 6, you had to have every station manned, and then you had to have every lot manned. In the evenings, we had 40 to 45 people working every night in those fields. Try to get that from your church. These people did it and did it awesome. 9 days we had to do that. However, first year, 9 days, $10,000. 2017, 9 days, $13,000. Figure out the math. We sent 2 mission groups, we had 2 mission trips during that time, completely paid for with just the fair money. And that's the beauty of what God wants us to do. Because you know what? You can see people like we're telling those cars to come in and doing their thing, and you're just looking at this, but you know people, or you can joke with them, or you can tell them to have a great day, and you can be so serviceable. And that's one thing we really worked on, because some of these people, they waited in line a little while. And when they get in there, they're mad. And so they're just going to be mad at you. And we would just smile and say, you still got to go that way. And if you don't want to, there's the exit sign. What are you going to do? And so this is the beauty of this stuff. I mean, we learned so much, but I will tell you this, that also unified the church like crazy. I mean, that's when we started having another celebration, and that was what we called Church in the Park, because right after we parked, the next Sunday we would do Church in the Park, and it was meant to just say, bless you guys. Take it easy a morning. And then the next ones, we would start at our Christmas programs. I don't know what year this is, but I'll guarantee you those people don't look the same either. Love Christmas programs, and we've had some wonderful people who have orchestrated and gathered and done all that. Kurt and Wendy up there have done it a number of times. And to bring all the kids together and just put on a performance of some kind, dress them up. I mean, the funniest ones are the sheep. I mean, that's always the way it is. You love the little sheep that have no idea of where they're at and what they're supposed to do, so they're just moving all over the place. But this is what we love. I don't know if you can see that little gal up there. That's that gal right there. That's my oldest granddaughter up there. And but see, what it does is it engages them in the story of Jesus Christ. It's a part of the church. I better keep moving here. Let's go to the next ones. Oh, this is something else we did. Man, I love this. How many are familiar with Gospel Echoes? Gospel Echoes is just an awesome organization started by Marvin Beachy years and years ago, many years ago. Prison ministry. How many of you have been to a prison with Gospel Echoes? Can I see your hands? Several of you. We would go into Michigan City Prison, take handmade cookies. We would have, I think we did 200 dozen, 300 dozen. Okay, 300 dozen from River of Life that we would make. And then you had to put them in the way on plates, and each prisoner Probably don't call them that, do you? Inmate. Roommates. Whatever you're calling them now. They got 6 cookies. And you know what was fun? They had to lock down the prison that day. But you go up to there and they didn't care because you were going to hand homemade cookies through them bars and talk to them. And we would just ask them questions like, you going to eat these all at once or are you going to save them? One guy said, oh no, these are gone in the next 15 minutes. The other guy said, this will be 6 days of goodness. But hearing stories, I still remember, and I haven't been there for years, I still remember one man who committed a very serious crime here, but he was from Australia. Therefore, he hadn't had one visit in the 15 years that he had been in prison because none of his family was here. And yet he knew the cookies would come. He had a cat. Remember that too. But that Gospel Echoes thing, that was just, there's gone. Hey. But that was a huge thing for us, and we loved it because it got us into places. Remember? I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. That's what Jesus said. So God gifts people with the ideas of ministry in the prisons. Let's go to the next. Anybody remember the gun show at our summer picnic? Every year for a long time, we've had our summer picnic out here. It used to be the week after Labor Day. It's been moved into August. And it's always a great time. Some of you know I like to do the trivia games out there, and we play ball, and we have all kinds of people who do things. And so I don't know if there's more than one slide for that. What's the other one? I see enough guns in that one. There you go. They don't look like that anymore either. But the beauty is it draws people and it brings people together. And we would always have, for a while we had Nelson's and then we had Matthew's chicken. And Matthew Slaybaugh would cook the chicken for the last, I don't know how many years, but several. And we'd have chicken and good stuff to eat, and everybody would bring something, and we'd just sit out on the ground all afternoon. Well, we sat in chairs, but I mean on the grounds. And then play games and had the kids play games, and it's just fun. And do we have another one, or is that? Oh yeah, fall party. Yeah, there you go. That one and the next one, I think. Every year in October we have fall party. Have hay rides, pony rides, games, food, really good food. You ever had a 1/4 pound beef hot dog? If you haven't, you're missing it. I'm just telling you. We did graduate it down just a little bit. Now we have 5 pounds, 5 to the pound beef hot dogs. But we grill them. And by the way, what's the best way to eat one of those hot dogs? What should they look like when you're going to eat them? Say it loud, Andrew. Burnt, yes. Black hot dogs. Them are the best. And we love that. But see, these are some of the things that we've done over the years. And that's the beauty of what God gives us ideas for and those kind of things. But if you realize that it was 50 people making a decision 30 years ago, and you come to those kinds of things, and you're going, I don't have any scope for what God wants to do and what he's going to do next. Seasons come, seasons change. God's faithful. And so when we come to this stage where you're looking at the things and you don't know what's next, and you're just saying, God, what? I can't tell you. I'm looking at it for myself right now. God, what's next? And you're going, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to trust him. That's what we're going to do. Because when we don't know, we wait. We say, God, I know you're real, and I know you're for the church. I know you've got ministry for us. I know there are things you want us to do. Help us know what it is that we're supposed to do. One of the things that I've often thought about is just seasons of life. For those of you who don't know me, I'm going to be 69 in 2 months. It's old enough, isn't it? 30 years, half of my life. I'm not good at math. Actually, I am. I can figure it out. But it's okay. But you realize what I'm saying. This has been our home. This has been our life for almost 30 years. But we've moved homes too. We're in our 4th home since we got married. Change comes. And when change comes, you figure it out. And so change will come to this church. But it'll be here. And I'm trusting it'll flourish. And I'm trusting that God will stamp it with His presence. I'd be remiss if I didn't add one more thing. And that is revive. I don't have a picture, but I have it stamped in here. Because revive has done some things for me that I needed, and I preached that last week. I've got a brother here. Stand up, Tom. It's Tom Schieffer. Tom and I have been accused of being brothers, physical brothers. Tom is with Revive now. At that time, he was Napanee First Brethren church pastor, still associated there. But he's in working with Revive. But Tom's the one that, those of you who know about Revive School, Tom and I would fly down together on Thursdays, come back late Saturdays, and we'd spend our Friday and Saturday being recorded to help Kyle minister the word in Revive School. We had been working with it up here in Sylvan. Would you stand also, please? This is Sylvan Esch. These are precious brothers of mine. You guys can sit down. It's okay. Sylvan and Connie, but mostly Sylvan on this thing. Connie was working it, but it was in his barn that we did Revive School, County Road 35. 2 years. We did Revive School in there. And what we thought we were doing